Good morning. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And the first thing I want to do is thank each and every one of you for what you do for your country and what you do for yourselves. Each one of you are each one of your country's blood and treasure. Each one of you is probably less than 1% of your country that is giving back the same way that in my military, it's really less than 1% that is giving back to their country, those that are in uniform. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for what you do. And the most important thing is you, because you are the future leaders. This is all about leader development, isn't it? This is what it's about, right? It's not about equipment. It's not about machine guns. It's not about helicopters. It's not about tanks. It's not about jet airplanes. Those things are all mildly interesting to me. Over my 31 years of experience, it's all about the headwear and developing leaders. Because where do we get these great men and women? Where do we find these great men and women on what they're going to accomplish for the future of my country and the future of your countries? So this time that I'm spending with you today is the most important thing I do. Because hopefully your questions are going to make me a better leader. You need to make me a better leader today by asking me hard, tough questions and challenging me on some of the things I'm going to talk to you about. And hopefully some of the things that I talk to you about today, maybe you get one or two things from this guy that's been hanging around the Army for about 31 years on the experiences that I've tried to accomplish over my 31 years of experience. So thank you very much for inviting me today, and thank you for your selfless service to your country and to come to this course today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick overview on CJTF Horn of Africa. I live in Djibouti. I've lived in Djibouti for 10 months. I'm back here for my oldest son's wedding, and then I'm heading back to Djibouti for another 6 months to work regional solutions to assist my East African teammates in doing what they need to accomplish, not only in Somalia, but within all of East Africa. And if we can go to the next slide. So this first slide just shows you how CJTF, how the Horn of Africa is right on the seams. If you look at this slide, we sit right on the seam in East Africa between several religious fault lines, between Muslims and Christians. As you look across the world, we sit right on that seam. And then as you go down to the bottom right, you can see the different tribes that we have within East Africa. And the key to this is not that we sit on the seam. The key is not that there's many tribes out there that have different needs and wants. The key to leadership is that you understand this operational environment. The key to being a good leader is reading and understanding and building your knowledge of understanding your operational environment so you can move faster against your adversary. It's understanding that environment. And you guys understand that environment there a whole heck of a lot better than I do, because I'm from Maryland and Washington, D.C. So how much do you think I understand Djibouti, East Africa, Somalia, Burundi? I need your help. And this is the reason why I came here today. But just to show you where CJTF Horn of Africa is. Go to the next slide. Then you go to the next slide, and this just talks about Djibouti and where I sit at. So I sit in a place called Djibouti, a place called Camp Lemonnier, and I'm responsible for the regional approach within East Africa. But if you push back from Djibouti and see where it sits 17 kilometers from Yemen in the southern Arabian Peninsula. It's an entry point into East Africa as far as the United States is concerned in our coalition. There's also an airfield there. There's an airfield there that has a lot of resources that we utilize to assist our East African teammates and to assist our teammates within the southern Arabian Peninsula. So it's pretty much decisive terrain as far as we're concerned, and we sat there, just tried to become a good teammate and try to sit on that seam so we can assist our East African teammates and our southern Arabian Peninsula teammates as well on that key piece of terrain. You guys being all soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, you understand the importance of terrain. This is a very important piece of terrain, and there's a lot of people there that want to park their resources in Djibouti because of the resources available and how we can better assist and enhance our teammates in East Africa. Go to the next slide. So this is my mission statement. You can read that mission statement. So you can see what I do. I'm a partner. I'm not in charge. How can I be in charge of somebody else's countries and somebody else's region? I'm a partner, and I partner and assist the joint, interagency, intergovernmental, multinational teammates. And you are our multinational teammates when it comes to East Africa. And I listen to you. There's a reason why the good Lord gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth. So I listen more to my teammates and understand the environment a whole heck of a lot better, so I can understand and be able to assist my East African teammates. And as you go down to my mission statement, you can see that I don't neutralize violent extremists. Neutralize is a fancy word for kill violent extremists. I don't do that. I don't have the resources to do that. What I do is I assist regional actors. And who are regional actors? In my region, you know who that is, right? Djibouti, Burundi, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Somalia, South Sudan. Any way possible, I will try to assist and enable them to take care of those problems within that region when it comes to violent extremists and other instability drivers that they may have within the region. We also enable freedom of access and movement within the region. How do I do that? I do that through having airfields like in Djibouti, or anybody here from Ethiopia, Arbor Mensch, or anybody here from Uganda, Entebbe, or anybody here from Kenya, Manda Bay, or anybody here from Somalia, Beladogle. So it's by having these locations that allow us to posture resources so we can assist our teammates. And why are we there? We're there to protect the United States and its interests, and our interests are your interests when it comes to East Africa. So that's the only reason we're there. The other thing I also do is we also respond to crisis when it comes to U.S. embassies and protecting them. South Sudan. Anybody here from South Sudan? So in South Sudan, we had an issue with an embassy back in December in Juba. So we were able to project a force in there in conjunction with the Ugandans, in conjunction with other forces to protect U.S. interests within South Sudan and protect the South Sudanese as they were going through these issues. And they were able to pull back out. All that is to protect the United States and also protect your interests within East Africa. And that's why I'm there. Any questions on our mission statement, feel free to ask me during the question and answer. Next slide. So why do I put up Somalia? Oh, excuse me, this slide, okay. So this is how we do it, guys. So if you go to the far right, that's how I want to end. So that's my end states, right? Because you don't know what's next unless you know how it ends, correct? But look at the most important thing I do. The most important thing I do is the 4th bullet, the bottom bullet in that slide on the right side. And what is that? And I'm doing it right now. What am I doing right now by talking to you and speaking to you and taking time to get to know you and build relationships based on trust? I'm building a team. The most important thing I do is strengthen the team within the joint, interagency, intergovernmental, multinational environment. The most important thing is my multinational teammates, and that is you. And how do you build that team? You build that team through leadership, because none of you work for me. And you'll see there's a lot of people out here in my region that does not work for me. But so how do I do it? I spend time with you. I get to know you. Just know that I'm married for 29 years, and I have 5 children, 1 grandson, and a granddaughter on the way. We get to know each other, we spend time with each other, and we build trust and understanding so we can move faster. That is leadership. That's leadership in this new operational environment, because in my world, nobody ever really works for you. You just got to do it through consensus, through trust, and through building relationships with different people and listening more than talking more. And then as you go to the big arrow there, ladies and gentlemen, that's how I'm doing it. And you can see that the oxygen that I breathe, the most important thing I do is build the team within the GEM environment. You guys, joint, interagency, intergovernmental, multinational environment. I build that team over and over again. Then the other 3 tasks of neutralizing or killing violent extremists, or enabling regional access, or freedom of movement, or executing crisis response is all within that arrow. If I don't have a good, effective team within East Africa, I can't do any of that. And how do you build that team? Through nothing more than leadership. Personal leadership. Talking to other human beings. Not just doing it over Twitter or Facebook, but getting out on their ground and getting to know each one of those individuals through leadership and personal experience. And then the other thing I do is I'm committed to the profession of arms. What is the profession of arms? You guys are all part of your own profession of arms. I'm part of my profession of arms. Our profession of arms is the most important. That's where you build leaders. That's where you have leaders that are based on core values. The most important of those being integrity and character, and making the hard decisions at 02 in the morning when no one's watching. And you're going to do the right thing for your country because you work for a bigger cause. You don't work for your own individual interests. You work for the greater cause of the greater good of your country, as I do. And we understand what it's like for a military to work under civilian control. And we give our best military advice to our civilian leaders. Then they say go one direction, we salute, and we move out. And we execute underneath of that civilian control. That's part of being a profession of arms, and that's the major reason why I stand here today in front of you, to talk to you and discuss that with you. Next slide. So why do I talk about Somalia? Well, there's a lot of great things that happened in Somalia and our recent successes, as you can see there. We killed one of the leader of al-Shabaab. We liberated several countries, most importantly, several cities, most importantly, Uganda liberated Barawi, which was really the last stronghold for al-Shabaab within there. So we've got a lot of great successes that we have executed in there. And you can see on the far right, all of the coalition of African countries solving their problems. Somalia is an African problem, and the great African nations within East Africa are solving their problem because of the leadership of East African teammates, and they all come together as one team, which is very important. But there are some current challenges, and I'll talk about those in a second. I'm just using Somalia as an example. But there are some current challenges that we're dealing with. How do you build an army at the same time that you're at war? That's hard business, and we'll talk about that in a second. Integrating militias, stabilizing liberated areas through governance development, very, very difficult. But Somalia is not the most important thing to me in East Africa. The most important thing to me in East Africa is in enabling our East African teammates to neutralize violent extremists throughout all of East Africa and building that regional approach. That's the most important thing to me, and that's how I try to assist each of the Chads, each of my ambassadors, each of my country teams, each country's governments, to try to assist them the best I can. Let's go to the next slide. So here's a challenge we have. Donor collaboration is a challenge when it comes to equipping and training the Somali National Army. If you look at that slide, you can see all of the different countries that think they're responsible for equipping and training the Somali National Army. Now, the last time I checked, if you got 10 guys trying to kick the soccer ball at one time, you're not that effective. This is like 10 or 12 different countries trying to kick the soccer ball down the field at the same time. Because no one's in charge. There's no real leadership. Right? I'd much rather have one guy kicking the soccer ball and the other guy's blocking and the other guy's moving to other passing lanes. Correct? That way you can move faster and more effectively. But as you can see here, all the different challenges. And these are 3 Somali National Army soldiers that were supposed to assist the Burundis as they were attacking up towards Jalexia. And you can see the one guy's in sandals, right? The middle guy? So how are we doing with equipping? There's a problem out there. Next slide. So what's the solution? We had a great London conference where we just focused in London most recently, and I sat in on it, on developing and focusing and getting the need to develop an effective man, train, and equip the Somali National Army. So we got leaders together, and we talked about how we're going to lead our way through this piece. And we're going to do this through, first, developing a small professional army of 10,900 within Mogadishu. But the accountability piece of the different conferences in blue that will continue to go on, that will hold the international community together, will build unity of effort, and we'll get this done. So what is that called? That's called leadership. So I went around for about 9 or 10 months telling everybody, showing everybody that first slide that said, you don't have a Somali National Army. The international community is not doing their job. We're terrible. No one's taking the lead, and we're not developing anything, so we're never going to get a Somali National Army developed, so we're never going to get Amazon out of Somalia. So look what it caused, a London conference. It caused us to come together as an international community, and now we're moving in a positive direction. You know what that's called? Leadership. Because 2 things, guys. Two things fix everything in our military. In any military we in, two things fix everything. Who can tell me what the two things that fix any problem in the military are? Feel free. Who can tell me? What are the two things that fix everything in the military? I can tell you it's not a tank, it's not a helicopter, it's not a machine gun. What is it?
I would say planning is one.
Okay, that's what leaders do. Planning's not it either. It's leadership. The first one is leadership, and leaders need to be able to plan. So you're on it. Leadership. You. No help's coming. If you got a problem, no help's coming. It's your leadership that's going to change the day. And what's the second thing that fixes every problem we have? Huh? A vision. That's leadership. That's leadership. But great point. An informed chain of command. So leadership and your informed chain of command, I will challenge any of you, fixes every problem we have. It'll fix West Africa and Ebola. It'll fix sexual assault in the United States. It'll fix suicide. It'll fix a company that's got to take a hill. It'll fix to go kill somebody. It will fix any problem you have if you have an effective leader and an informed chain of command. That's why I've been in the Army so long. It's real easy. It's not that hard if you remember those two fundamental principles. Great leaders with an informed chain of command. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what's the other problem I have? I have human resource constraint challenges. This is my C2 chart. Okay, I don't have very much resources. I don't have much authorities as the CJTF Horn of Africa commander. Matter of fact, if you look at the bottom yellow box, that's really all I have. I have a CA company and an infantry company that I can do anything with. It's not like when I was a brigade commander in Iraq during the surge where I had 7 battalions and 42 companies. Whew. I could get some stuff done then, man. But I don't have that now. See, my president tells me that we're going to have a smaller footprint and we have to be innovative, creative, and develop different solutions and work with our teammates more and assist and enable. That's leadership. But my president told me, you're not going to be able to have all those soldiers out there anymore. You got to work with other teammates and enable them and to figure out how to assist them and build relationships based on trust. And that's called leadership. So how am I solving that? Go to the next slide. So how I solve this problem is, if you look at this slide, this is my network. And what do I mean by my network? This is my people, processes, and procedures that I've started to build relationships with over 9 months. I talk to everybody. Who knows General Samora in Ethiopia? Anybody heard General Samora, the Chad in Ethiopia? Very professional soldier. I talk to him through handwritten notes that I get digitized and I send to his aide in Addis, and that's how I communicate with him. Who knows General Wamala from Uganda? Or General Zachariah from Djibouti? They're the military leaders of those countries. I talk to them through Yahoo email and going to personally visit them. I have 2 C-12s that I fly around all the time to build relationships. I talk to General Elmi, the Somalia National Army Chad. I talk to him through his cell phone. I call him up right now and say, hey, what's going on, sir? You need help? How can I assist you? It's all about building relationships. It's about building teamwork. That takes personal energy. When people ask me what it takes to be a general officer in the United States Army, you know what I tell them? You better be physically fit. You better not be overweight. You better get some sleep. Because it's your personal energy that's going to drive things. And what's that called? Let's see, starts with an L, ends with a P. That's called leadership. Because it's, when you're a general officer, it's not what you say, it's where you spend your time. So I'm spending my time with you today. You know how important this is? If only 1 or 2 of you take any points out of this, one of you guys are going to be the next Chad for your country. Somebody's going to be General Wamala. There's a new General Wamala out here, and I want to shake his hand. Well, I can't shake hands right now, but I want to talk to him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's the next leader of this country. And if we can share that information, we can get through this, through leadership. Let's go to the next slide. So here's another problem I got. Overcoming the human resource constraint challenge is the way I do this is I do high payoff, low resource. So I go in with small teams to try to enable. Let me give you an example of one. So in Ethiopia, in Sector 3 in Somalia, they were having problems with accurate indirect fires. against Al-Shabaab. They couldn't put in accurate indirect fire. So what I do, I sent 2 people in it, a sergeant and a warrant officer that understood how to place guns for artillery. 2 people. It had a huge impact because now they have more accurate indirect fires to close with and destroy the enemy. Only 2 people. Within Somalia, my country only allows me to have 5 people in there. One's a logistician. The lessons learned from the last operation in Somalia was that UNSOA had no idea what the ground tactical movement was within the operational maneuver because Amazon headquarters did not coordinate anything through logistics until the very last minute. I put one logistician, a female captain, went into Somalia, and she brought UNSOA and Amazon together, so now you have a synchronized effort because you know amateurs think tactics and professionals think logistics. And this operation now went a whole heck of a lot better because it was supported appropriately by logistics because of one person that went in and synchronized this. This is my president's guidance. Go in with small teams and have a big impact and figure out those niches. And that's what I'm trying to do right here. And that's how I overcome this. Let's go to the next slide. Whoa. This coalition warfare is a challenge, isn't it? Different languages, different cultures, different bosses. And look over here, the Amazon Force headquarters in Somalia. Look how many different ways he's getting pulled, just like I am, from different bosses. I work for ambassadors. I work for country teams. I work for different chads. I work for different presidents in different countries. I work for a 4-star general, General Rodriguez in AFRICOM. I got all these bosses pulling me in different ways. That's the challenge with this coalition warfare. I would submit to you, if you have a strong leader as the leader of that coalition warfare, you will be successful because the leadership and chain of command can fix this problem. Let's go to the next slide. So how do we solve it? I always look at the ends first. We understand, we build consensus, we establish mutual trust. We do this through understanding our strengths and weaknesses, understanding each other's objectives, understanding our history and culture. It's the reason why I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I listen to more to understand your history and your culture and treat everybody with dignity and respect. Maintain balance and always demonstrate patience, but most importantly, what my grandmother taught me, you treat everybody with dignity and respect, no matter what. That's the universal language, dignity and respect, and that's what good leaders do. So finally, go to the next slide. So this is what I expect of you. So if you ask me, what do you expect of leadership? What do I expect of you in East Africa or in Africa as a good teammate? This is what I expect. Most importantly, I expect you to be a great leader. I want you to work on it. Each and every day, you need to work on becoming a better leader for your country and for your cause. And be that leader based on personal character that's physically and mentally tough, in good shape, not too heavy, and can get around and spend energy and get after it and be in the right place to lead by example. What's the second thing I want you to be? I want you to become an expert in your craft. And whatever you do, I want you to be the best in it. And that takes hard work and focus. I've been in the Army for 31 years, and I'm still figuring out how to be a general officer. I've only been a 2-star general for about a month and a half, so I'm probably not a very good 2-star general right now. But I'm going to work on it over time and become a better one, because that's what my country expects of me. And the last thing, and perhaps the most important thing, is just be a good teammate. None of us really care who gets the credit, right? As long as our country is successful and our region is successful and we as a team is successful. I'd much rather all of you get the credit. I don't care. I just want to make sure that I meet my mission and that we win. Okay, guys? And I look forward to your questions at the end, and thank you for your time today. Thank you very much.